Most of the problems you face in life are not the result of fate plotting against you, nor are they punishments or random storms meant to break you. Most of them are born inside your own mind, shaped by how you interpret situations, how you react to people, and how you allow thoughts to grow unchecked. Stoicism teaches that life becomes clearer, lighter, and far more manageable when you change the position from which you view it. The world does not suddenly become easier, but you become someone who can handle it with calm strength. Each of the lessons that follow carries the power to dissolve unnecessary suffering and replace confusion with clarity, frustration with understanding, and chaos with inner order. There is a moment in every person's life when they realize the world will not bend to their will. Most discover this early, but only a few accept it. The first Stoic lesson speaks directly to this truth. If you want peace, focus on what you can control and release what you cannot. Your thoughts, actions, attitudes, and choices belong to you. Everything else does not. Yet so many people pour their energy into things that were never theirs to manage. They chase approval, fear outcomes, worry about the past, and obsess over what others might think or do. The mind becomes a battlefield, fighting enemies it can never defeat because those enemies were never physical. They were illusions of control. Once you begin to separate what is yours from what is not, the unnecessary weight falls away. You begin to see clearly where to direct your effort and where to practice acceptance. Imagine walking down a road carrying two heavy bags, one filled with your responsibilities, the other with things you have no power over. Most people carry both and wonder why life feels exhausting. Stoicism asks you to drop the bag that is not yours. Walk with less weight. Walk with intention. When you do, the world looks different. Things that used to upset you no longer hold the same force, because you recognize they do not belong to you. Someone's mood, a sudden change in circumstances, a planta di denti, unfold the way you imagined these things lose their sting. When you stop expecting them to behave according to your hopes, your energy returns to you, and you realize how powerful a focused mind can be. Problems shrink not because they disappear, but because you stop feeding them with resistance. The second lesson reminds you that your emotions are not enemies, but they also are not rulers. They are visitors, temporary and intense at times, but ultimately fleeting. Most people allow emotions to become commands. Anger tells them to lash out, fear tells them to hide, sadness tells them to quit, and frustration tells them the world is unfair. Stoicism teaches something radically different. You can feel deeply without acting blindly. You can observe your emotional storms from the shore rather than drowning in them. When something triggers anger or disappointment, pause. In that pause lies the difference between a peaceful life and a chaotic one. The Stoics believed that the mind becomes stronger each time you refuse to let emotion push you into an impulsive reaction. Instead of reacting instantly, look at the emotion as if you are holding it in your hand. What is its shape? What is it trying to tell you? Is it pointing to something true, or is it simply a habit of thought? You discover that most emotional suffering is amplified by the stories you attach to the feeling. A single event becomes 10 times heavier because the mind adds meaning that isn't there. But when you strip emotion down to its essence, you regain control. You can experience fear without becoming fearful. You can feel anger without being someone who acts in anger. You can feel sadness without being consumed by it. Strength is not the absence of emotion. Strength is the mastery of it. A calm person is not someone who never feels strongly. They are someone who has learned not to let feelings dictate their actions. This practice alone can solve countless problems because most conflict, regret, and self-doubt come from acting before thinking. When you remain the one steering the ship, the storm may rage, but it cannot sink you. The third Stoic lesson is one of the most transformative. Expectations create more pain than reality ever will. You suffer not because life is cruel, but because you expect it to be something it is not. You expect people to always be kind, opportunities to always appear, plans to always unfold, and days to always go smoothly. When life fails to match your internal script, disappointment, but the truth is simple. The world was never following your script. Stoicism teaches the freedom of meeting life as it is, instead of demanding that it meet your fantasies. When you expect reality to be perfect, Even small inconveniences feel like tragedies. But when you expect reality to be unpredictable, full of impermanence and change, you become adaptable. Your mind stops clinging to specific outcomes. You stop being shocked when people act according to their nature rather than your wishes. You stop resisting the flow of events and begin to navigate them with intelligence. Expectations are often invisible. They hide beneath your desires and assumptions. But once you start noticing them, you realize how much suffering they create. A conversation doesn't go the way you hoped, and suddenly you feel hurt. Not because it was harmful, but because it did not match the imagined version in your head. A goal takes longer than expected, and frustration appears not because you lost progress, but because you expected progress to feel effortless. Stoicism teaches that when you loosen your grip on expectations, you free yourself from being constantly disappointed. Acceptance does not mean passivity. It means dealing with reality instead of fighting it. And when you work with the world instead of against it, solutions appear more quickly. Patience grows naturally, and life becomes easier to handle. Most problems lose their force when you drop the unrealistic expectation behind them. Running from discomfort makes you weaker, not safer. When you confront a problem directly, you learn two important truths. First, most of the fear existed only in your imagination. Second, you are far more capable than you believed. A difficult conversation postponed becomes a burden that haunts you. A task delayed becomes a mountain instead of a molehill. The anxiety that built up around the problem dissolves. You realize that taking action was less painful than carrying the fear of the action. It is quiet, steady, often invisible. It shows itself in small choices. The choice to act instead of hide, to fix instead of complain, to move instead of freeze. Every time you choose courage over avoidance, you build a stronger foundation within yourself. Over time, all the small acts of courage add up, until you become someone who no longer panics in the face of difficulty. You become someone who handles challenges with clarity and purpose. And when you reach that point, most of the problems that once troubled you no longer carry the same weight, because you develop the strength to meet them without fear. When your mind focuses only on what is missing, every problem feels heavier. But when you train your thoughts to notice what is still good, what is still working, what is still possible, problems lose their ability to overwhelm you. From frustration to perspective, from complaint to appreciation, the air feels lighter. Opportunities become clearer. Your relationships deepen. Your patience increases when a person begins to live by these lessons. Instead, the mind shifts slowly, consistently, like dawn turning darkness into light. At first you notice that things which once irritated you now barely touch you. You notice that situations which once overwhelmed you now feel manageable. You notice a new kind of calm that does not depend on your circumstances. This is the essence of Stoic growth. The world may remain chaotic, but your response to it becomes controlled, deliberate, and wise. As days pass, you start to realize how much unnecessary suffering you once created for yourself. You remember arguments that served no purpose, hours wasted worrying about things beyond your influence. With your new understanding, you begin to let go of these habits. With this shift, you begin to approach each day like a disciplined observer. The internal freedom you feel grows with each practice. You notice that when your mind is calm, your decisions improve. You stop making choices from a place of panic or insecurity. You begin to think long-term instead of being trapped in the intensity of the moment. You speak more thoughtfully. You react more wisely. And you carry yourself with a grounded confidence that others can sense. People start to wonder how you stay so composed. They may even misunderstand it, thinking you are detached or emotionless. But what they cannot see is the enormous discipline behind your calm. The internal effort that allows you to move through life without being shaken by every storm. As you walk deeper into these Stoic principles, you begin to understand a profound truth. Most of life as suffering comes from trying to fight reality. Reality is not here to please you. It will not shape itself to your desires. It does not pause for your convenience or adjust itself to match your expectations. But the moment you stop resisting what is, you unlock a state of mind that very few people ever experience. Acceptance is not surrender. It is the beginning of power, because once you accept the truth of a situation, you can respond to it effectively. You can make decisions based on clarity rather than denial. You can move forward instead of staying trapped in wishful thinking. This acceptance does not make you passive. On the contrary, it makes you more active. You stop wasting energy on illusions, and you direct your effort toward what actually matters. You see that life is too short to be spent arguing with reality. It is far better to align with it, understand it, and navigate it. Stoicism teaches that true control is not about bending the world to your will, but about bending your thoughts toward wisdom. With time, this mindset becomes natural to you. Problems that once consumed your mind now pass through it without lingering. You find yourself choosing peace, not because life is perfect, but because you are no longer controlled by confusion, fear, and impulsive emotion. As you continue to embody these lessons, a new kind of clarity appears, the clarity to see the value hidden inside adversity. Stoicism does not pretend that suffering is pleasant, but it teaches that suffering can be meaningful. Every challenge carries a hidden message, a lesson wrapped in difficulty. When you face hardship with a calm and deliberate mind, you begin to decipher this message. You see that discomfort builds discipline. Failure builds wisdom. Rejection builds independence. Difficulty builds resilience. Life does not give you these strengths for free. It provides opportunities to earn them. When you view challenges this way, your relationship with them changes. You no longer see them as punishments, but as teachers. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and begin asking, "What can I learn from this?" This shift in perspective alone dissolves countless problems. Instead of feeling attacked by life, you feel guided by it. Instead of feeling like a victim, you become a student, and the more you learn, the less anything can destabilize you. Yet even as your mind strengthens, Stoicism reminds you to remain humble. Wisdom is not about believing you are above others. It is about recognizing how often you were wrong, how many battles were unnecessary, and how much pain came from within your own interpretations. Humility protects you from arrogance. It reminds you that the goal is not to feel superior, but to become more self-aware. It teaches you that everyone is struggling in ways you cannot see, and because of that, you begin to treat others with more patience. Their anger no longer provokes you. Their mistakes no longer irritate you. Their judgments no longer wound you. You understand that everyone is fighting their own internal battles, just as you once were. Over time, the combination of acceptance, resilience, humility, and emotional discipline creates a kind of inner peace that cannot be easily disturbed. This peace does not come from avoiding life's difficulties, but from engaging with them properly. You stop seeking constant comfort and instead seek strength. You stop chasing temporary pleasure and instead cultivate lasting stability. You stop depending on external factors to create happiness and instead build happiness from within. This internal transformation gradually begins to reflect in your outward life. Your relationships become healthier because you no longer take things so personally. Your goals become clearer because your mind is not clouded by constant emotional noise. Your work improves because you approach tasks with focus instead of frustration. You begin to accomplish more not because life becomes easier, but because you become more disciplined. You start to notice that you waste less time. The distractions that once pulled you away from your purpose no longer hold the same temptation. You realize how many hours you once spent worrying about what others thought, replaying conversations, imagining worst-case scenarios, or avoiding tasks you knew you needed to complete. Stoicism removes these mental chains. It gives you back the time and clarity that fear once stole. As you continue practicing, you learn to appreciate the power of simplicity. Stoicism teaches that a simple life is not an empty one, it is a peaceful one. You discover that you do not need as much as you once believed. You stop chasing validation. You stop measuring your worth by external achievement. You stop comparing yourself to others. You stop being controlled by desire. And with that freedom comes a natural sense of contentment. It is not the contentment of having everything, it is the contentment of not needing everything. This simplicity also sharpens your sense of gratitude. You begin to appreciate moments that once felt ordinary. A quiet morning, a meaningful conversation, the progress you have made, the lessons you have learned, even the challenges that shaped you. Gratitude becomes a lens through which you view the world. And from that lens, everything becomes a little softer, a little brighter, a little more peaceful. The most powerful result of all this inner work is that you become someone who cannot be easily shaken. Life will still test you. It always will. Loss, disappointment, uncertainty, and change are unavoidable parts of being human. But your response to them is no longer fragile. You no longer break at the slightest pressure. You no longer collapse under emotional weight. Instead, you remain grounded. You remain focused. You remain aligned with your values. This stability does not make you cold, it makes you steady. It allows you to navigate life with a kind of quiet confidence that inspires others. You become someone who can walk through chaos without losing composure. Someone who can experience pain without losing hope. Someone who can face uncertainty without losing clarity. Someone who can encounter negativity without absorbing it. Someone who can rise again and again, no matter how many times life challenges you. In the end, these 5 Stoic lessons are not just ideas to think about, they are practices to embody. When you apply them consistently, they reshape your mind from the inside out. They dissolve unnecessary problems and give you the tools to face real problems with strength. They teach you that the quality of your life depends far more on the quality of your thoughts than on the events around you. And they remind you that peace is not found by waiting for perfect conditions. It's created by disciplining your inner world. This is the promise of Stoic wisdom. Not a life without problems, but a life where problems lose their power over you. A life where you walk with clarity. A life where you choose your reactions deliberately. A life where strength is quiet, calm, and steady. A life where most of your problems are solved not by changing the world, but by mastering the way you move through it.